Mr. President, most of you know that I have a real job besides being a United States Senator, and that real job includes farming the land, which includes spending, starting in the spring, 12 to 16 hours a day on the tractor, where you get an opportunity after you're going round and round and round to think about anything you want to think about. Before I got in this job, I used to do math problems, okay? Since I've gotten in this job, I think about this job when I'm on the tractor. And I think about the United States Senate. And I think about how over the last 15 years, this place has been incredibly dysfunctional. And I've been here 15 years. I can't speak to what it was like before that. But it's never worked since I've been here. And the reason it's never worked is because I had this idea in my head that being in the United States Senate would be a place where we could have debate, the greatest deliberative body. You ought to be able to have debate. I think I saw Senator Durbin once almost get into a debate here, maybe twice. But it just simply doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because we're not forced to do it. Because you take the easy way out, all you have to do is put a hold on a bill, and then you can walk out. In fact, I think it was my second year here, there was a senator that put a hold on a bill and then went back to his home state. Didn't even stick around. I don't think that's what the forefathers had in mind. I think what the forefathers had in mind is to stay here and have a discussion and have a debate. And when people disagree, not be disagreeable, but try to find common ground. That doesn't happen, but rarely. And so you ask yourself, what can be done about it? And I've had the opportunity over the last 3 months to work pretty extensively with my friend Senator King and Senator Kaine and Senator Manchin and talk about ways we can move forward in a way that encourages people to come to the floor and debate. And I think there's a proposal to do exactly that. This is a carve-out today, but the truth is that there's a proposal to protect minority rights and encourage people to come here and debate. We ought to be doing that. It isn't nuking the body. It's not destroying the United States Senate. It means we get a chance to stand here in front of these cameras and challenge one another because we have to, because the rules force us to do that. Not to go home to our home state. Not to put a hold on a bill or a person and then not say a word why. Not to be able to justify why you're doing that on the floor. So I see this in a little different light than has been described by someone across the aisle. And that I don't think this is blowing the Senate up at all. I think the Senate, if the forefathers looked at the Senate today, they'd sit there and shake their heads and say, what has gone wrong? And I think what's gone wrong is we've gotten lazy. It's the truth. I mean, truthfully, the last place I want to be is on the floor of the United States Senate trying to justify my position. I mean, that's a lot of work. Takes time, takes effort. We ought to be forcing people to do that. That's part of this debate we're having here today. And we ought to realize that there's not a single member of this body on either side of the aisle that wants to blow this place up. They might describe it that way, but the truth is, everybody knows that serves in this body that this body doesn't function as the United States Senate. It doesn't function. We don't do what we need to do. We don't empower committees. We don't make sure our chairmen are doing what they need to do, and we don't debate on the United States Senate floor anymore. And we haven't for 15 years and probably a heck of a lot longer. I happen to sit in the seat of Mike Mansfield. I don't think Mansfield would look at this and say this body works and we ought not change the rules because it works so well. I think Mike Mansfield would say, you know what, guys? We did some changes in '76. You need to take a look back. Things have changed here. We've got cameras now we didn't have in 1976. We got folks that come on the floor and raise a lot of money on this floor by talking to those cameras instead of talking to one another about what's important here, about the policies that we need to take up. So that's the first thing. I don't think we should be afraid about adjusting the filibuster to make the United States Senate work. I think it's the right thing to do. Not blowing it up, but making some adjustments to make it work. Now let's talk about voting rights for just a moment. I believe there's 19 states in the United States right now that on a pure partisan basis have changed the way votes, either access to the polls or the way votes are counted when they're done. I can't imagine anybody in here, when you look at that, and it's all been done on a partisan basis by Republican legislatures. If you would look at that, you would say, boy, this is moving our democracy forward. You know, when I got in the state Senate in 1999, I worked with a very conservative Republican on State Administration's Committee to make voting easier. We worked together. We both had the same ideas in mind, that we wanted to make voting easier in Montana, and we did it. Now, it's a different world out there, and I really don't know why. And let me give you an example. When I ran in 2018, there was a record number of votes cast in Montana, and I won. Democrat won. In 2020, there was even a larger number of votes that were cast in 2020, and a Republican won. This isn't about advantage for Democrats or advantages for Republicans. This is about making it so everybody can have their voices heard. Something that's very basic to this country, by the way. We stand up here and talk on the floor about how people have sacrificed for the rights and the freedoms in this country, and one of those freedoms is the freedom to vote. And lives have been sacrificed for it, but yet we want to limit certain groups of people from voting. In Montana, for example, they've said that student IDs, college student IDs, won't work as an ID to go to the polling place. Are you kidding me? I mean, first of all, what kind of message are you sending to the young people that are going to be running this show, and probably a heck of a lot better than we are in just a few years? You're saying your voice doesn't count. You want to talk about disenfranchising? This is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. And I know it's really hard for me to think, how do you justify saying this is a good thing to have happen? Voter registration, okay? Now, we're in this job. We all do this every day. Think about it every day. And so voter registration is probably no big deal to us. But to working people that have to pay the bills, having to take a half a day off of work to be able to go register when you can't do it on election day, that's a big deal. And we all stand up here and we always say, well, you know, we're for working families. They're the heartbeat of this country, and they are. But the truth is, what message are we sending to them when we say, no, you know what, no more same-day voter registration, which, by the way, in Montana, it was a vote of the people that the legislature a year ago right now, repealed a vote of the people on same-day registration. So what message are we sending to those folks? My good friend Raphael Warnock, Senator Warnock, talks about standing in line for 8 or 10 hours to vote. And first of all, I don't know that I have the will to stand in line personally for 8 or 10 hours to vote. I complained when they moved the polling place 3 miles from my house to 15 miles from my house. But to stand in line for 8 to 10 hours, I mean, that's a commitment to vote. And now we're going to make it tougher? And we're going to make it so that when there were good Samaritans out there that were handing out water and maybe some soda crackers, we're going to say, no, that's illegal and punishment, breaking the law, punishment by God knows what, fine, jail, I don't know. What is it? It's a felony. Well, this is crazy, guys. So we shouldn't be acting like the stuff that's going on in this country right now and has been going on mainly for the last year. And my fellow senators have talked about why it's the case. We shouldn't act like it's no big deal. It's a huge deal. If we disenfranchise voters in this country, our democracy is on a slide away from democracy. And as my friend Angus King has said many times on this floor, democracies are the exception, they're not the rule in history. They've happened rarely. And they happen because people understand the sacrifices it takes. We have sacrifices we need to make in this body. And part of it is we need to ensure everybody has equal access to the polls so that they can vote. It's fundamental to our democracy. That's why we're all sitting here today. If it wasn't fundamental to our democracy, you know what? I'd be doing something else. I'd be in my office working on papers or something like that. Who knows? But the truth is, this is fundamental to our democracy. And we can try to, move the conversation and say, why aren't we talking about the economy? Senator Kane said it very, very well. We've dealt with economic issues. We need to continue to deal with economic issues. We've dealt with supply chain issues with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We need to continue to work with supply chain issues as we move forward, and we will. But I will tell you, if we disenfranchise enough folks from the polls, we won't have a democracy to talk about anything, because it's fundamental to our democracy. I would just encourage everybody to take a look at the bill that's presented today, the two bills, and look at it. Don't talk about the one that was presented in 2018 or 2019. We can all do that. That distracts from what's really going on. Look at the bill and ask yourself, is this really a federal takeover of elections? It absolutely is not. It's about making it so people can go to the polls and make their voices heard and feel like they're making a difference in the country by voting for the candidates that they want, or in some cases, voting against the candidates they don't like. And as far as the filibuster goes, times change, things change, and one of the things that's changed in this body is we don't debate anymore. I'm for anything that will get people to the floor so we can debate the issues that are so important to the future of this country. With that, I yield the floor.